know you'll make it exciting. Thank you. Opening of the meeting for the Sports and Rec Committee today. Welcome everybody here today, and also a special welcome to our youth councillors, Hayley and Nathan. Thank you. And you guys have been here before or not? Hey, Nathan has, and Hayley, you have? Very cool. So I have one apology from Madam Mayor. Can I have any debate, or can I put that? Someone put that? We accept the apology.
Yes, second.
Those in favour? Put it. Those against? Carried. The order of business, as is in the agenda, we have the public, and then we've got a public excluded. For public meeting, we have got a consultant coming in at 9:45, so I assume we'll be up to state that by that point. If we do have to have a bit of a pause to wait, we'll have a bit of a tea break. Sorry? Oh, fair enough. I think last time we said it was going to be very short, it went a bit longer. But there are no interests. I'll just check any interests to register, or any interests or conflicts for this agenda. Anyone around the table? No? Thank you. Public forum. There's no public forum for today. I'll move that on to confirmation of minutes. So pages 6 to 11 are the confirmation of minutes for 23rd of May.
Move that.
Move that they're a true and correct record.
Yes, I will.
Councillor Courtney, can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Walker. I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Chairman's report. There's no formal chairman's report, but I will give you a quick update. Some of you may well be aware that at the Tahuna Park Reserve there, the skate ramp, I think it's going a little bit about in the social media, but they actually went down there and had a look and spoke to some of the volunteers, and they've done an extremely good job. And it's a timber one, but it's got an incredibly good lining on it, so you don't have any of those issues that some of the timber ones do. And it's a good size, not that I'm a skater of any ability, but it's 10 metres by 10 metres. So one of the builder and those designing it reckoned that they reckon at the moment they'll claim it's the best in the country of that type. It's got a 6 foot, for those who are keen boarders when you're not skating in swimming pools, it's 6 foot high drop, and then there's an 8 foot high drop. So if you come off the drop, you get a good view out to the Tasman Bay from that. But no, it's extremely well done, and a big thanks, I can't name them all, but Shane was the designer and builder, with Sam and Cam and Tom, and I'm sure I've missed a few out there, but they've been working really diligently over the last number of weeks, and they take great pride in that. If it's either not already open properly, it'll be the next couple of days if you go check it out. Councillor Fulton.
Oh yes, thank you. I was down at the beach over the weekend as well, and it's looking fantastic. It looks really, really great. I just have a couple of questions. There is some ply on the sides, and I just wondered what's going to happen to that, whether it's an opportunity for Youth Council to maybe do some artwork on that. So the first question is around the sides of it, whether there's any plans for some artistic work there.
Yep. So I wasn't bringing this as a agenda report, but as a...
I know, but as you brought it up.
Yeah, no, I'll leave that in the good hands of...
And my second question is, which officers might like to look at, it's in a great location, but it's very, very close to the basketball hoop. I imagine that could cause some problems, and so have the staff looked into whether the basketball hoop can be moved elsewhere?
No, looking at it, I think that was a bit of discussion when I was down there on that, and that might be looked at. And I believe Mitch Pownell was looking after that project, and he's done a great job there. He's always a bit shy to be in front of the camera for that, but a big thank you to him and the team as well on that. But that was something I think he discussed when was down there at Pole. But well spotted. And the only other breaking news is pies are $2 across the road at the dairy there, only on Tuesdays. I'll leave it at that. Moving on to important news. We're going to the next. The agenda is on pages 12 and 19. The Cawthron Reserve. It's a water easement. The Cawthron Crescent. So we've got a bit of a recommendation at pages 12 to 19. I'll invite staff. I'll just have a pause there. I'll just see what we've got. Otherwise, we've got. I can move on to the next agenda item, which is the submissions on the proposal to revoke certain delegations under the Reserves Act. Is that timely to move on to that now, or otherwise?
Let's do it, Mr. Chair.
Are we comfortable with that at the moment? No. Okay. Well, just pause for a moment. We've just got, we'll go back to Cawthron Reserve, so we just need the staff for Cawthron Reserve or the, so we actually must be going very smoothly ahead of time. Already must be expecting a long chairman's report from me. So just pause for a moment. That's right.
So pages, so, you mean pages 20 to 36, item number 8. This one, the title.
Right. So this paper just simply covers a submission that council has made to support the LAPA and the LGNZ submission. What that relates to is, sorry, I just run up the stairs. What this relates to is that there is a proposal for the Minister to revoke certain delegations which have been made through to councils under the Reserves Act. This is in response to a problem that another council had. What we've done is we've just simply supported the LGNZ and LAPA submission, and we've included in our submission some examples of the additional work that might be required if those delegations were revoked.
You can make any queries on the topic. Councillor McGurk and then Councillor Walker.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. Mr. Chris, I'm just wondering, have we got any delegations, any process under the Reserves Act currently underway?
Through the Chair, there might be through the property team. There is constant work which has been undertaken, of course, with requests for consideration of concessions on our reserves and the like. It's most likely that the property staff are at any one time working on those.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if the delegation, do we carry on with those, or will we palm those off to Department of Conservation?
Through the Chair, that would depend on any transitioning or grandparenting that was decided if they were revoked. We're quite hopeful that the Minister will consider very carefully the submissions which have been put in and decide that it's more efficient and effective if councils retained their work.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been through it all. It's not really my field. What I always look for is something that's not in here. Is there anything that, in addition to this, that you feel we should be aware of, or is this pretty much a procedural thing that we're involved in?
Through the Chair, it's procedural. We were quite surprised that there was a suggestion that the delegations be removed from council. We felt that there hadn't been enough consideration in Wellington of the amount of work that councils actually undertake, and not enough consideration of the additional work that it would even place on DOC and what staffing that they would be required to pick up the work that we do. So as I said, we're quite hopeful that we'll get favourable consideration of our submission, LAPA's and LGNZ's work.
So on the basis, under the options, we can either approve or decide not to approve, and if we don't, then the submission's got to be withdrawn. So your feeling is which is the most appropriate?
That the submission, through the Chair, that the submission stands as it was put through.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Mark. So this is actually putting another layer of bureaucracy over the whole thing, isn't it, really?
Through the Chair, yes.
Increasing costs. Whose costs are going to be increased by this? The central government are going to carry the costs of this, or is local government going to continue to bear the burden?
Through the Chair, that hasn't been decided or I think properly considered at this stage. I suspect that a large portion of any increased costs would be put on the applicants for, say, a concession and the like. DOC would be probably looking to recover their costs. It may actually increase our costs because, of course, an applicant is unlikely to be able to be charged twice. We will still need to do some work. DOC will need to do some work. I suspect that the income would go through to DOC.
Just to follow up from that, I'm thinking, it seems to me like delaying the process too, delaying it somewhat.
Through the chair, most definitely, yes.
Councillor Delbig.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I was looking on page 31, which is really your draft version, insert comments, and on the right-hand side, it seemed to have a lot of the delegations should remain. So I'm assuming they are to remain with Nelson City Council as they are.
Through the chair, yes.
That seemed to go right the way through. So the bit I'm trying to figure out here, so someone's put up we should lose them, we're saying we should keep them, and there's a few there that we're happy to concede that they could be done better somewhere else. Have I got that roughly right?
Through the chair, no, we are proposing that the status quo is the best method. Attachment 1 is the attachment to the LAPA and our Gen Z submission. So if you're looking at the reasoning and the comments in those,
Yep.
That's their reasoning and their comments on a standard doc form.
So, sorry, Mr. Chair, so where I read on the right-hand side, it says comment. Is that our comment?
Through the chair, no, that's LAPA's and our Gen Z's comment.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chair, in the bottom bit there where it says the note number 1, footnote number 1, a minimum, as a minimum, so that's not ours either?
No, it's through the chair, no. So from pages 27 through to 38, those are our Gen Z and LAPA, that's our Gen Z and LAPA submission.
Got you. Oh, thanks, Mr. Chair. And then, so really it's our Chair's, Councillor Skinner's comments as our contribution. Is that what I'm reading?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And Mark, just for clarity, because I know a few councillors from outside the committee asked some good questions of me, trying to work out what we're doing. Well, examples if we didn't have delegation and the delegation went as it was originally wanted, what implications would that have had on some recent events, say like Bay Dreams or us wanting to reclassify some of our reserves recently? That would have slowed it right down for us and we would have missed out on some opportunities.
That is correct. I have strong reservations that we would actually have been able to put Bay Dreams work through if it had to go through both council and DOC, in the 6 months leading up to that event in January.
And the likes of when we've done some classifications of our land like Victory Square and Green Meadows, etc., what implications would that have had?
It would slow things down as well. I guess if the minister does decide to revoke the delegations, then what it will come down to is what resources DOC is granted to actually process the work that councils currently undertake. And then, so that's quite open.
And the other question for the public's interest, why has this come about? Why has DOC wanted to have some delegation? Why has it come that they wanted to change to how we currently have it?
There was a problem with another council in the work that they were one instance of what they were doing using the delegated authorities. My understanding is, and I haven't seen the full case on that, is that that was sort of like a one-off and a special case. And one of the points made by Local Government New Zealand and LAPA is that that one instance should not be the reason for revoking all the delegations.
Okay. Thank you for that. I've well explained it. Good report. Any further questions, Councillor Barker? Thank you. In the scheme of things, there's some correspondence missing for me to fully comprehend and understand what's happening. Were we notified directly by DOC?
Through the chair, I have tried to find the original letter in our system. It may have been a circular, so not ended up in our document management system. I have gone back to Local Government New Zealand asking for a copy of what they received from DOC, and that was some time ago, but I hadn't received a response.
Thank you. Well, that's the information I was looking for. What are the actual delegations? What was the correspondence from DOC telling, I take it, all local government in New Zealand of the changes? Or are we just basing our reply purely on the LAPA and LGNZ response? There seems to be something missing.
Through the chair, there is substantial work that was undertaken by LAP and LGNZ was sufficient for us to actually prepare the submission. I am still trying to obtain a copy of that letter of the 14th of March. It does not appear to be readily available, but when I do, I will certainly circulate that.
Well, I guess, Mr. Chairman, that's all we can do, but I would have liked to have looked at what were the delegations that were being revoked. We've stated in our reply of the processes that are affected, but we don't know the detail on the delegations. Councillor Delbourg, Mark, would you have a comment there?
Sorry, through the chair, the delegations which have been covered are in that appendix in the table. That's got the substantial matters that were covered.
Councillor Delbourg.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think Councillor Barker's picked up where I was at too. So my original thought was that we were making some sort of comments on that attachment 1. But now I get it now, so it's a report being done. We've sent a letter off in sort of support of it. And so I'm reading here, it basically says we're supporting it or not really, because we haven't added anything to it. Which I kind of find disappointing, because when I look at the delegations and things that we actually do, Bay Dreams is one of the classic, and we have to do it really quickly. If this goes through and we lose those delegations, I'm assuming things like that will cease for us or become more challenging.
Through the chair, that is correct. I spoke to our legal advisor about the process that we were undertaking for making our submission. Their view of the legal advisor's view was that the work undertaken by LAPA and LGNZ was very comprehensive, and that the best value that we could add to the process was to provide some examples of the work that we undertake that would be affected by the any possible removal of delegations.
Councillor Corn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to sum up in my mind, I sort of see this as a knee-jerk reaction to one situation that developed in the North Island. And DOC are putting this proposal forward. So could do I glean from your remarks that you're optimistic that this won't progress, this proposal?
Through the chair, I'm hopeful.
Councillor McGee.
Just a couple of quick questions, just sort of getting my mind around it. I just went back to the earlier matter we're dealing with, say, the Cawthron Reserve, for example. The proposal delegations, is that just with reserves under the Reserves Act? Is that what we're talking about?
Through the chair, that is correct.
That's all we're talking about?
That is correct.
So, I'm looking at Mr. Pether in there and thinking about the number of reserves that we've got scattered around the city in terms of that we've purchased pieces of land for recreational purposes. Are they under the Reserves Act or the Local Government Act? I'm thinking sort of likes of Saxon Field or neighbourhood parks and things like that, so.
Mr Chair, councillor Steer, both. Most of the reserves that we take from subdivision, well, all of the reserves that we take from subdivision are under the Reserves Act, but we have a number of reserves that we've taken over many years which are covered by the Local Government Act. It's probably 2/3 are Reserves Act pieces.
Yeah, that helps me in terms of, you know, the scope of, for want of a better word, the land grab. Okay, thank you.
And do I have any other questions? Thank you. That will, if we're happy with that and the questions there, thank you, Mark. Can I have someone move both the report and the approval and the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Courtney. Have some second that, please. Councillor McGirt. Moves us into debate. Any debate? Anyone speak to it? Thank you. I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you everyone for that. So moving to the Corfin Reserve, the Corfin Crescent wastewater easement, pages 12 to 19. So item number 7. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. So any changes, alterations to what you've got?
No, there are no changes to the report.
Thank you. I'll take it as read, but is there anything that you want to clarify or explain? It seems fairly straightforward, but I'm sure there's going to be a few questions, and I've got a few questions myself.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yes, the report discusses a request to grant an easement over Cawthron Crescent Reserve. Despite its name, it is not in fact a reserve under the Reserves Act, but it has always been treated as one, it's labelled as one. It's actually a park under the Local Government Act. But due to the fact that to all intents and purposes it appears to be a reserve and the public in the neighbourhood probably don't see the difference between a park and a reserve, we just brought this matter to the table for your approval. And yes, so any questions?
Someone second? Got a couple of questions. Myself, is there any other questions before I? No. Just got a couple of questions. Yeah, with 4.3, 4.4, it talks about the properties, private property. So it goes through our land, it goes through the roading.
Goes through our land, goes through eroding, and then it goes through property number 51, which is a private there, and yes, and it's saying there that at this stage things are positive, but I'm sure there's more negotiations, and I assume you've got to get this passed over the line before you take it any further with the property owners. Is that correct? Before they'll give a strong indication. So it could still be held up at that point.
That's correct, Mr Chair. So the project is still in the design phase. If you agree to this step of it, we can push ahead with the negotiations with property owners at the end of the street. The plan there is that there's a shared right-of-way that the pipe can fit within, going into number 51 and then across into the neighbouring property that's actually in Stafford Avenue.
Okay. And my query was, well, I see there's two properties, 51, but you got, see on the map, committee properties number 49 and 50, so it's a shared reserve, a shared driveway, right away, and I realise with a driveway you sort of split it as far as the land ownership, so they'd all got access to it. Would that not affect 49 and 50 being it's a shared driveway, I know even on the plans you sort of split it into three, but my understanding, I might be wrong, is when you've got a shared driveway, you all share that bit of land, no one owns outright, but for the sake of legalities you put a line down the middle. So even though the red line might be going down the middle, which you might call share number 51, would that not have a legal effect on properties 49 and 50, saying, well, that's still our drive, no one came to me about it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the plan is to talk to all three property owners. They all have the requirement to maintain the right-of-way in equal shares. So it's not in the greatest condition at the moment, and we believe that some surface runoff is actually affecting particularly number 49, I think it is, and so we'll require permission from number 51 to put the pipe up their section of the right-of-way, but the project will upgrade the surface and improve the drainage for the other properties as well. So we're imagining that they'll be quite keen on.
Thank you. And I suppose at this stage they haven't been approached at this stage. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I'll just check. I've had a couple of comments on here, but they might have all been covered. And going through private property, I mean, obviously we avoid that when we can, but is this sort of an anomaly that this, or is this sort of pretty much our bread and butter? We come across this quite often and we work through these sort of things and take them as they come?
That's correct. This is quite a regular occurrence for the projects team.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm very happy with what we've got in front of us. Any other questions there? Councillor Barker and Councillor Walker.
Thank you very much. What's the street number for the Stafford Avenue property?
My apologies through the chair. I have to come back to you on that one. I think it's 14, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Peter, this route of this proposed pipeline that would take, does that preclude any buildings in the future being built over it? In other words, if, say, though the owner of 51 and the adjacent property off Gracefield Street, should they want to put a garage or something in, is that going to restrict what they would want to do in the future?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it could. The easement route through the private properties will be as much as possible negotiated with the owners to kind of avoid that happening in the future.
Take that into account. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for that. No further questions or commentary? Thank you. Thank you for your report. Thank you for that presentation. Can I have someone move that we've received both that? We've done that. Thank you. That's right. We did it earlier on. Well done. I'll put that. Any debate? Sorry, any debate? Can you put that? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. That, I believe, is all that we have in the public. There's nothing else. No, correct.
Just one subsequent question. Just as a matter of interest, when's it anticipated that the work will take place on, particularly on Annisbrook Drive? Can be planned for a non-busy time, I hope.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The current plan is to go to tender towards the end of this year and for the work to be undertaken in Cawthron Crescent, definitely second quarter of 2020. I'm not exactly sure of the entire project timeframe, but I believe it should be completed by the end of the next financial year.
Thank you. Yeah, I was concerned about the Annisbrook Drive area, which is a very busy route. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Well done, everybody. That finishes us for our public part of the meeting. We do have a Mr. Rod Baxenden coming for a public excluded. Is he? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So what we'll do is we'll move into public excluded. finishes our public. Can I have someone move that we go to public excluded? Seconded. I've got moved by Councillor Delberg, seconded by Councillor Walker. And that Mr Rod Baxendine from Choppy Young is to remain in the public excluded. Any debate? Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. So that moves us into public excluded.